Welcome, everybody. It is Good Health by Claudia, a podcast with me, Denny Schaffer, a production of Denny Radio. We are at episode 66.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we are just rolling, and hopefully you'll enjoy these podcasts as much as we are, as, we do these podcasts for you. And we hope that you are inspired to, take a hold of your health and share the podcast with everybody you know, because all good is going to come out of this. I mean, it really is. Once you start taking care of your health, you're going to feel so much better. And whatever you're putting in affects every part of your body.
That's right.
Because everything starts in the gut.
Good work.
And goes to the brain and everywhere else and all this other stuff. Now, today is going to be a little different than other podcasts. Claudia and I are a little fired up over a story that she actually showed me. It ran on NBC News, and here's the headline. I'll just give it to you, and then we're going to go through it and break it down, and hopefully you're going to learn what's really, truly going on.
Right.
The headline is, rates of liver injuries rise in the U.S. as supplements growth in popularity, as supplements are becoming more popular. Again, NBC News put this out. It was written by Lindsay Leak, Marina Kampf, and Amelia Adeka. I have no idea their background, other than I guess one of them is supposedly writes on health industry. Anyway, but here's the thing that I want to say before we go down this road. We have no idea if they're being paid for this story.
Right.
We don't know. Journalists, here's something that I've learned in all the decades that I've been in radio, which is, over 4 decades, is there's no such thing as there's no such thing as you not being able to inflict your personality and your belief system with your words. I know that sounds confusing. Everybody has a slant. That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
We don't know what their slant is.
Right.
And some people called experts can be paid because they have ulterior motives. So let's go through this story. They tell the story of a guy named Robert Grafton of Turnersville, New Jersey. He tried to convince himself he was just coming down with something one weekend in mid-March. Then came the itching and dark urine. Grafton, a former interventional radiology technologist, his wife's a nurse, recognized the hallmarks of liver failure. So they knew because they were in the industry.
Yeah. The
otherwise healthy 54-year-old had a gut feeling that his herbal and dietary supplements were the culprit.
But he's been a radiologist. He's been around radiation, right, for how many years?
Yeah. So,
but they're not looking at that.
There's no effects.
Okay. Keep going.
There's no effects there from that.
I mean,
he said, I stopped taking everything. Thank goodness. If I hadn't known, if I was not in the medical field, I might have thought, I think I'm getting sick. I need to take some more of these supplements to help me feel better. When his symptoms had only worsened by midweek, he visited his primary care doc. The doc said, I think he got hepatitis A, a liver infection that can be caused by consuming food or drink contaminated with hepatitis A virus. Grafton's laboratory test results showed otherwise. My liver enzymes were super elevated. My BILIREUBIN was really high. Billy Rubin. Anyway, I guess it was all signs of liver failure. So less than a week after his symptoms had begun, he was admitted to the hospital in Philly. Turns out he had something called drug-induced liver injury, which came from my supplements. Now they're already saying, like, factual that, first off, have you ever heard of drug-induced liver injury?
Well, unfortunately, we're seeing this, we're hearing this more, but this whole conversation, this is a big conversation. And I think it's a very important conversation because we're a nation where pharmaceuticals began with the intention of being the only way to approach anything when it comes to health, disease, whatever you want to say. So for our industry, there's been a lot of this kind of activity against herbs, and this has been going on for many, many, many years. So when I read that, the first thing I'm thinking, well, this is a guy that worked in radiation all these years. Are you going to tell me that people that work in radiation aren't being affected by it?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. We have people that are working in radiation at the hospitals. We have a lot of people that come to us from our community, which I'm very grateful. Doctors, nurses, and we have people working in radiology that are coming in to find ways to protect themselves
Right.
from what they do every day. So this kind of an article, people read it. The American public generally does not have a full understanding about the power of herbs, the knowledge of herbs. Everyone knows drugs. I mean, you got 5-year-olds that are taking their own drugs, and
Right.
everyone knows about pharmaceuticals, but this country has not been focused on herbology and supplementation. It's because of the independent health food stores in this country, and I have to credit also the chiropractors going back 70, 80 years. It was those two industries that kept this knowledge alive. And I'm very grateful for that. So here's the point. A lot of these conversations, when we really look into, they're never talking about what is somebody eating every day? What is somebody drinking every day? What kind of environment is somebody working in? What meds are they taking? Now, I don't know anything about this gentleman, and we only know what it says in this article, and what we know is what he does for a living. So I think it's very fair to say the liver cleans the blood.
Mm-hmm.
It's working very hard for us every day. Everything is in the blood, what we eat, what we drink, what we're exposed to. So when they're focusing on, and we've heard this for years. I remember this is probably 30 years ago. A guy came in, he was on, 18 meds, and he started taking a little bit of echinacea, and he, whatever, he reacted with whatever he had, a runny nose or whatever. And he went to the doctor, and the doctor says it's the herb, and he's on 18 meds. So I think it's very important to have a conversation like this. And again, we're going to do another podcast where I want to invite people from our industry. We'll have a roundtable conversation.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Oh yeah.
I look forward to that because
these are people that know the history of our industry. They know the loss, the legalities we've been up against and all of these things. So the message today is Western medicine is always going to point at natural substances. We've seen it over and over and over. We don't have time today to get into all of the media campaigns over the years trying to, discredit different herbs and different things. But what we do know is I think it's very irresponsible when when Western medicine is always blaming everything on herbology and supplementation, when you have people living on artificial sweeteners.
Oh.
They're eating artificial colors and flavors, which are toxic. You have people taking hormonal replacement therapy, all the, I was looking up some stats. This is interesting. I was looking up. Now we know the statins are very stressful to the liver. I mean, we know this, right? So I was looking to see how many people in this country are actually on stats. According to some of the websites, and I always go to the NIH and some of the more well-respected websites, and they're saying anywhere from 40 to 50 million Americans are on statins.
Are you kidding me?
Well, okay, but they're going to blame it on the herbs. You've got, as I said, people eating artificial sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, all this stuff. What do we know about it? They're toxic to the liver. So people are ingesting things all day long that are affecting the liver. And yet they constantly want to point to the herbs. Now, one of the lists, I was looking at an article similar to this. There's 6 things, this was on Fox News, 6 things that they're saying potentially are toxic, are cause liver stress. Turmeric.
Yep. That's in this story.
Yep. Green tea, ashwagandha.
Yep. That's all
Garcinia,
all in
black cohosh. It's like, really? People have taken these things for thousands of years. These herbs didn't just show up. They didn't just show up on Amazon. There's thousands of years that they have been on the planet. They've been recorded. And it's interesting. We know what herbs do because of the historical documentation. We know what they do, but Western medicine wants to identify how they work, which is cool. But when you're identifying how they work, let's look at the whole picture. Turmeric, for instance, he used turmeric. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory. They're saying that it could potentially be toxic to the liver. I've known thousands of people that have taken turmeric over the years.
Me?
Thousands of people that have taken ashwagandha, green tea. They're not sick. They don't have these issues. And I also want to say, over the years, I've had a lot of people, I work with a lot of docs. I work with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of different blood works. And when you see these elevated liver enzymes, there's so many reasons they could be coming, where they could be coming from. But we see people improve their liver profile, improve it. But this is what I want to say. Like anything, you have to have the knowledge. When it comes to herbs, you have to have the knowledge of how to use them properly. They're very powerful tools for good health. And unfortunately, most Americans, as I said earlier, they know drugs, but they don't know herbs. And unless they're getting the proper guidance, are there plants on the earth that are toxic? Absolutely there are. But when we're talking everyday herbs that you have millions of people that have been using, these plants, and again, here's the other thing. It's important. The quality of the company that you're purchasing is very important. There's a lot of companies jumping into our industry. They don't always do things with integrity. So this is why at the store, for me personally, and I encourage people, stick to the companies that have been doing what they do for many, many years.
And they don't cut corners.
And they don't cut corners.
They don't cheat with little things in there, and you don't even know what you're taking.
So it is possible to get an herbal product that maybe came from a company that's not reputable. Who knows what they put in it? Right. A lot of people bring in these products, are getting all over the internet and Amazon and all these things, and some of them are loaded with absolute junk, but the consumer doesn't know it.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's always going to be about knowledge. Always. That's what keeps us moving in the right direction, especially when it comes to our health. So what I would say is, I'm sorry this gentleman ran into liver issues. I don't necessarily, and again, this is my opinion. After 51 years of being, as I always say, in the trenches, one of those weirdos hanging out in health food stores, working with hundreds of thousands of people, I have never seen anyone have a problem with Garcinia, ashwagandha, turmeric. Is it possible? Maybe if you take, pounds of it in one day.
Right.
But we're talking, we have to learn how to use herbs responsibly, intelligently, and mindfully. And that's what we're teaching people.
Right. And that's why. Yeah.
So I just want to show you, our industry has been up against pharma's attacks and the media because they're all intertwined. Everybody needs to understand that, right? We already know there's collusion between FDA, pharma, you've got medical institutions, the food processors. The money is all the money is there, right? And it's all about, making money off of sickness and keeping people chronically ill. And that's not what this conversation or what this should be about. This should be about the beauty of herbs, the responsible tools that they are, and teaching people. We need to teach more Americans, which is why you and I are doing what we do.
That's why we're here.
There's other people doing podcasts. We're getting the word out. And I think about all the years before we had the internet and all these things, when there was a smear campaign against our industry, and there have been tryptophan. They went after tryptophan. A lot of people took tryptophan to help them sleep. And it came out sometime later, it was not the tryptophan that was making people sick. It was a contaminated raw material. Never talked about it after
They
that,
never
though.
come back and
No.
explain it.
When
They
you
just
exactly.
Oh, wow, isn't that interesting?
When you talk about ephedra, lots of people know about ephedra. They've heard the history of it. You know, this book has the court case in it. When you learn about ephedra, what's sad, they pulled the actual herb off the market, which we had a lot of Asian people that it's traditional to the Asian culture. So when that happened years ago, we had, you know, docs that were coming in trained in Chinese medicine and other people that were familiar with this herb.
Right.
People were very upset because here's what they found. It was not the Ma Wang that did it. It was an activity that they pulled from it called pseudoephedrine, which is still on the market, by the way.
Oh.
But they pulled the herb that's been documented for 6,000 years. So we really have to look at the big picture and the politics and the economics behind good health versus disease.
So part of this story here says herbal and dietary supplements are causing liver damage with mounting prevalence.
Right.
They state that as fact.
Well,
and see now,
and
to somebody who is not educated like yourself, or somebody who doesn't have good common sense, what they come away with is, well, I'm not going to take any of these herbs.
Right.
You know what?
Right.
So is there an underlying reason why stories like this? And this story contradicts itself because part of the story says liver damage linked to supplements is rare. How rare is unclear.
Okay, right, exactly. So here's again, they're manipulating.
They're
manipulating things to instill in the consumer's mind, oh my God, I'm not taking herbs. They're dangerous. They're unregulated. Oh, and that's another thing, the whole thing. Anyone that says herbs are unregulated by the FDA, they either don't know the subject matter or they're not speaking truth. Because when we passed that law some time ago, we talked about DSHEA, Dietary Supplement Health Education Act. We passed in 1994. It was a very important law because it was the first time in this country that supplements were given their own category. And this was very important. So the FDA has full authority over our industry. They see something that is a potential problem. They have the full authority to pull it off the market, but they have to show that it's toxic. They can't just go in anymore and pull something off because they say it is. They have to prove it. I think that's a very important thing. So just remember, anyone tells you FDA doesn't regulate our industry, that is not true. It's right in the law. They have all the power they need. The question is, are they using it the way it should be used? That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So, but as far, and I want to show you one last thing. And again, next time we talk about this, I want to find some of the media campaigns over the years from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, where they splashed across the media, you know, herbs are dangerous and, you know, all these things, just like they did this. This has been going on for years.
It's a hit piece is what it is.
Yes. So I just want to show this. This is 109 pages.
Wow.
And it's unsubstantiated claims and documented health hazards in the dietary supplement marketplace. This is from the Department of Health and Human Services, Public Health Services, Food and Drug Administration. Now, this is an older account. This is from July of 1993. There's 109 pages of things that they're saying are unsubstantiated claims and potentially harmful. Well, 109 pages. I looked through it. Every herb you can imagine is in this this documentation. Now, remember, this is from 1993. I was talking to a couple dear friends of mine about the podcast today that have been in the business as long as I have. And I was asking one of them to date, because you can't find, it's very hard to find any clear statistics of how many people have actually died from supplements. So
probably because there's not many.
Well, that's the whole point. That is the whole point.
Yeah.
So remember, if you take herbs, that's the other thing I want to say before are we running out of time?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, we got time to burn it. Because I want to ask you a question about this guy supposedly took 2,250 milligrams of curcumin.
Yeah, curcumin, which is the activity in turmeric.
Okay, so
turmeric, whatever you want to say.
Turmeric. they say that's what caused it. And he drank it. He had a liquid, ultra concentrated and then he had pills on top of it. So
right. So
it is possible to take too much of that.
Well,
turmeric.
here's what I think is important to talk about at this point. Herbs, every herb is a tool for our health. It has a purpose. When you take a certain herb, you're asking it to do what it's meant to do in the human body, whether it's working as an anti-inflammatory, whether it's working to support the immune system, the brain, whatever it is. Herbs have action. This is what they do. When you do a particular herb, you need to know the action of it. And I think it's fair to say I've seen some people take too much of different herbs, and I've said right out to them, why would you do that? Why would you drink a gallon of some herb every day? You don't do that. They're meant to be in smaller doses. So again, it comes back to responsibility and understanding of the product that you're doing.
And knowing your own body.
And knowing your own body.
Like whenever you have me try something new, I try one thing. I go 1 week of that. Because if you do 2 or 3 together and all of a sudden you start feeling funky or you start feeling good, you don't know which one it is. So it's a long, lifelong process. It really is.
It is. And I think it's even, remember, most people have gone years of their life without knowing about herbs. Right. And this is an issue, in my opinion, right now we're all you turn on the TV and it's all drug commercials. Everywhere you go, drug commercials.
Gosh,
you got drug commercials in the magazines. You got drug commercials everywhere. You can't even get on the internet without seeing drug commercials pop up on whatever site you're on. I mean, they're everywhere. But most people are just learning about supplements. So the way you're doing it is the way we teach people. Do one new thing at a time. See what it does for your body. Feel what you're feeling. Experience the herb. These are beautiful living tools, and they're empowering us in many different ways. So you don't want to just start taking a bunch of stuff that you don't know what you're doing. And I always tell people, keep it simple. Start low. Start low with what you're taking and see what it does for your body. But anyway.
One of the writers is an award-winning health journalist and contributor to NBC News. She holds an MA in science writing from Johns Hopkins. So she's the main writer on this thing.
Okay.
Here's what we don't know about stories like this.
Right.
We don't know if they're being paid by someone else to push an agenda to move people away from supplements because it's cutting in to their profits.
Absolutely.
Because people don't want to put poison in their bodies. They don't want to put toxins. They don't want to put chemicals. Yes, everybody wants a quick fix. That's why I'm watching Everybody Loves Raymond Saturday night, my wife and I, before we went to bed. Every single commercial was a different drug. Every single one. There was 4 commercials. I said to Sharon, my wife, I said, do you see this? Every one is a different friggin' drug for diabetes, for high blood pressure, for whatever ails you. The problem is it's all about greed, and it really irritates me because we don't know if they're being paid for their opinion to push people away and come back to the fold of pharmaceuticals and drugs. And it's killing people.
Well, it's sad. And anyway, so, all we can do is keep speaking our truth.
Educating, baby.
Educating people. And again, nutrition is powerful. It's wonderful, but it needs to be done with responsibly and with education. And that's what we're here to do.
And this is the first of many of these kind of podcasts.
Yeah.
Claudia is going to put together a roundtable.
We're going to,
I love it. We'll get 2 or 3 experts.
Absolutely.
And then I get to sit here and just love it because this kind of stuff fires me up because I love that when we expose the truth to the lies that we've all been fed. And we have been fed lies our entire lives.
Oh, it's very sad when it comes to health. I think it's very fair to say Western medicine has impeded and continues to impede in improved health for the United States.
So my kids are Gen Zs, and the Generation Z that is right now, and they're both in their 20s. This will be the first generation they don't expect to outlive their parents.
Tragic.
That's horrifying.
That's tragic.
It shouldn't be that way at all.
It's tragic.
It is.
And we've talked about this before. You know, I've being here to help educate adults to help their children. This is a big inspiration for me. It always has been. And what we've seen over the years, okay, here's a perfect example. Right now, they're finally pulling some artificial colors out of food.
Oh, finally. Thank you.
But
RFK.
why were they in there for 80 years in the first place? Because everyone knew very clearly they were toxic. Okay, so now you've got kids being raised on total junk because they're not the ones buying the food or non-food, whatever you want to call it. So you got all these kids being fed junk. It affects their brain. It affects their nervous system. They can't, sit still. They can't think clearly. They can't have a conversation. And what does society do? Take them to the doctor and put them on a drug. No, there's nothing wrong with the children in the United States.
It's their diet.
It's what society is allowing to happen to them. And this is a serious problem. And more people need to be recognizing this and talking about it. This is why every day I encourage parents. If you're being ridiculed by other parents that you're taking care, that you're feeding your children well, get rid of those people.
Take it as a compliment.
I mean, honestly, come on. So cleaning up the diet is very, very important.
Number
one.
It
always will be, because as we know, what starts in here?
Everything starts in the gut and it goes to the brain and everywhere else, man.
And everywhere.
So
and years ago, Joe Bassett always would say, when something would come out in the media and customers would come in and they'd want to talk to him, he'd say, who funded it? That was his answer. Just exactly what you're saying. Who funded that article? Who funded that research? Who did it? And when you look at it from that perspective, it's very easy to see why our industry has been ridiculed and there's been a smear campaign against the natural products industry for many, many years. It all comes down to the money.
It is.
More and more people are figuring that out, and I'm very grateful that more Americans are understanding that.
They
need to.
Oh, I tell you, I look forward to our next podcast where we can break this down, because it just gets me fired up, and I love it when you're this fired up. So imagine like 3 or 4 people involved in a podcast where we're all talking about this.
And
that'll be awesome.
Yeah, and we're gonna. For me, and I've always said that right from the beginning. For me, it's very important. I want to teach people about our wonderful industry, because the great visionaries, the pioneers that started this whole thing, that had the courage to say a different conversation than what FDA or Western medicine wanted them to talk about. A lot of those visionaries, obviously, they're not here anymore. And to me, it's very important. I want to pay respect and I want to pay accolades to the people that have forged this path so that we can sit here and talk about these things. Because these were, and even when, I always tell people, without the independent mom pa stores in this country, we would not have supplements on the market.
Wouldn't.
At all. Without DeShay protecting our supplements and the right for people to access them and the right for people to learn about them. If that law had not been passed, our supplements would long be gone.
Yeah.
So honor the independent stores in your community, support them. That's where the knowledge and the heart is. Go to, the big box stores that are selling supplements, they don't care. They don't even know what they're selling.
They don't.
Half the time you see supplements thrown in the markdown bin for $1.
Right.
Because nobody cares and they don't want to, they don't know and they don't want to know. So support your local independent health food stores. They're very, very important in the United States. And if we ever lose them, we got a problem.
We do.
So please support them. It's very important.
Good stuff. And continue supporting the podcast and make sure that you share this with people. And thank you. Thanks for watching.
Yep. Thank you.
Claudia, like always, give you the last word.
Thanks. Well, I guess I always say the same thing, don't I?
That's okay.
But
we
so
need to
many
be reminded.
people will come in and say, thank you for reminding me to keep the faith. And so that's, it's so important for me to share that with people. Keep the faith. There's a lot going on, but there's so much good happening through all the chaos. And that's what, and more customers, it's very interesting. More and more customers are understanding that there's good changes happening. We just have to be willing to embrace them and see them. And anyway, I respect everyone that's making an effort for their good health. I have great respect for it because it's a big commitment, but it's well worth it. And I've said this for years. As more people embrace their health and get on the side of wellness and get out of the business of disease, we're going to see so many things change in a positive way in this country. So it's a beautiful thing. So keep the faith, everybody, and be mindful about what you eat, care about it, care for your children, care for your grandchildren. We want those kids to grow up healthy, drug-free, and live wonderful, long lives. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, Denny. Peace.